Let's continue with our board. This PDX scanner did the calls, so I have a little extra time. Before we do that, I want to look at this video here. I'm going to look at Eli's video. I want to. What Eli is doing in this video is doing what's called cop watching, but these are TriMet cops. Okay, it's a constitutionally protected activity. So let's watch what happens here. So he's observing their missions, constitutionally protected activity. We're out in public. There's no expectation of privacy. Not standing up on them, behind them. Now, notice how they're observing a watch signal because he's behind them. Going into a huddle. They're going, if you look over here, they're going into a huddle. What they're doing right now, obviously, is discussing what they're going to do about Eli. Okay, what are we going to do about this guy? Okay. He's watching what we're doing, which is constitutionally protected. He has not said a word to them. He said nothing to them. He's just watching them. Okay, so here it comes. All right.
So you've been following us? You've been harassing us?
Okay, he never said a word to them. So when he says you're harassing us, he never said a word to them.
Here's your...
You got a court date.
So he's giving him a TriMet citation. We're going to go over that in a minute. Okay, we don't really need to go see any further. Okay, he's giving him a TriMet citation. All right. And let's see. I've lost my. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay. He never talked to them. And his citation was issued under TriMet Code 28.5D6A, which I will look up now, and I will explain it to you. Okay, he said they're harassing them. Let's look at it. It's very fascinating to watch all of this. Okay. So we're going to expand this so you can see it. 28.15. So we're going to scroll on down. 28.15. D. So we got to get down to D. B. See, D. Okay, prohibited risks to transit system security and order. Okay. Um, so we now need section 6, subsection A. So we scroll on down. Subsection 6, harassment and intimidation. That's what they cited him for. Now let's just read this so you can understand what they just did. While on transit district system, no person shall engage in harassment. Oh, Jesus Christ. Hold on. It's too big. I've got to make it smaller. You won't be able to see it. No person shall engage in harassment or intimidation through a course of conduct, including violent, threatening, or disruptive behavior or conduct intended and likely to provoke a violent response. Okay? None of that he did. He did none of those things. Okay? Which places another person in reasonable fear of imminent physical harm. So he did not do that. Including, but not limited to, following such person around or about a district vehicle or platform. Now, this is the part that they're going to try to say, he's following us around. But unfortunately for them, he didn't meet any of the other criteria of this sentence, okay? Which is intimidation through a course of conduct, including violent, threatening, or disruptive behavior, or conduct and likely to prevent a violent response. He did none of those things. He was just doing his First Amendment right, which is the right to film public officials in public. So they gave him a bogus ticket, a court date based on an erroneous interpretation of the statute. Okay, I know that this is what it's on his citation, this is what they cited him for. Now, a public official that writes a citation knowing that it's actually bogus is violating the law. Okay. ORS 153.990. Any person who, in connection with the issuance of a citation, so you can see this, it's okay. Any person who, in connection of the issuance of a citation or the filing of a complaint under this chapter, knowingly certifies falsely to the matter set forth, commits a Class A misdemeanor. And that fair inspector just committed a Class A misdemeanor by giving him the ticket, the summons on that code. He just committed false certification. So he just committed a misdemeanor. Now we can see this is true because we've read both the TriMet code, and we know this from looking this up. Now we know that's true, but we know that trying to get the corrupt Portland judicial system to see any of this is a whole nother story, because they're all in cahoots. We saw what happened to the Lane Jensen thing and how they manipulated that, and they had the district attorney in on it, and so they're gonna and Eli is no stranger to this, by the way. He's beaten multiple charges that are very similar to this. They don't like him, they don't want him around, so they come up with some bogus charge like this. So this will be going to court, and we're talking about how we're going to sue this guy under this. Okay. So we're already working on this and how we're going to approach it. So, you TriMet people, you need to be more educated as to what the hell the laws are and what you're doing, because you keep violating your own codes, you're violating state law, and you can do all this because nobody can hold you accountable. And that's why this keeps happening. But this time you might find yourself in a little bit of a difficult situation. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how ruthlessly unaccountable those fair Nazis really are. Now, the fair Nazis that also keep telling him to go see the PIO, they can do that. You can't compel any of these people to talk to you if you're doing what he's doing. You can't. They don't have to talk to you. That's true. Okay, so when they tell him to go, and he will go to the PIO, he will go as instructed to see Roberta Altstadt. And so she can expect a visit. And there you go. I wanted to show you that. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, Eli's this, Eli's that, Eli's, oh, he deserves it, blah, blah. You know, it's the usual shit we get from people that stand up for their rights. All the bootleggers of America come out and defend the police state and the totalitarian. And this is just normal. Now, back to this puppet show, which is a whole nother level of obscene unaccountability. I mean, the whole agency is rogue. I'm sorry to say that, but it really is. I mean, from the operators who throw people off unjustly with the support of the dispatchers, to these fair Nazis who give out tickets to people who are engaging in constitutionally protected endeavors, to the harassment of poor people. The whole place is really out of control on all levels, and that's why I showed you that. And these board are out of control too. They support. They have the nerve to raise fares when the civilization is collapsing. So they're all sociopaths themselves. And this is our government, folks. This is our government. And it's not just TriMet. It's all of our government. I spend a significant amount every day watching police auditors. And you see the same thing. They make bogus arrests. You know, once they get you in their machine, you have to defend yourself. Now, the funny thing about Eli's ticket is it wasn't an exclusion or anything. It was just a court date based on harassment, which comes with a $150 fine. Of course, they'll play the video at the trial, and it will be thrown out. I mean, he's going to ask for trial. You know, it's not going to just be settled. And Eli's an old pro with this. He's had multiple cases like this, multiple. And he's beat them all. And this one he'll beat too.
Includes the resolutions for today, but we do have 2 second readings on ordinances. And so I'll ask General Counsel Shelley Devine to read the ordinance by title only.
Thank you, Board President Simmons. Ordinance number 370 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, amending Chapter 14 of the TriMet Code to revise the definition of net earnings from self-employment. This is the second reading.
Thank you. Mr. General Manager, following our first reading and the public hearing, is there anything you'd like to add for the record?
President Simmons, nothing further.
Thank you so much. I will now pose the question to the board. Are there any other questions or further discussion regarding Ordinance 370? Hearing none, I'd like to ask General Counsel to hold the roll call vote. Thank you.
Thank
Okay, so they don't even want to talk about this? It's some bureaucratic thing, but you think they would at least talk about it a little bit.
you. I'll start with our board members who are on the screen there virtually. Director Gonzalez?
Aye.
Director Lewis?
Aye.
Director Edwards?
Aye.
And back down here to the table, Director Kim?
Aye.
Director Bauman?
Aye.
Director Way?
Aye.
And Director Simmons.
Aye.
Ordinance 370 passes unanimously.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted. Next, we have moved to Ordinance 371, which is also a second reading, and I'll ask General Counsel Shelley Devine to read the ordinance by title.
Thank you again. Ordinance number 371 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, adopting September 2022 service reductions and revising route designations. This is the second reading.
Yeah, okay. This was, this is when they just cut your service without any Title VI. No Title VI, no public hearing. They just did it. Okay. And that's the true TriMet there. Okay. They just said, we're cutting service. That's that. Okay. So just so you understand that all the public hearings are completely just window dressing nonsense. They don't mean anything. They cut your service. They expanded the capital projects. And they have to rubber stamp it. These puppets here are going to rubber stamp it.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Following the first reading and public hearing, is there anything else you wish to add?
President Simmons, thank you. I have no comments.
He has no comment. Of course you don't. Why not? I mean, why would you have a...
And board members, do you have any other questions before we act on this? All right. I'll ask General Counsel Shelley Devine to hold a roll call vote.
Thank you. I'll start again with Director Gonzalez.
Aye.
Director Edwards.
Aye.
Director Lewis.
Aye.
Director Kim.
Aye.
Director Bauman.
Aye.
Director Way.
Aye.
And Director Simmons.
Aye.
Ordinance 371 passes unanimously and is adopted.
Thank you. With no further comments and no further business to come before us, I will adjourn the board meeting. However, there is a briefing this morning, and we will move right into that briefing. But before we do that, just a reminder that our next scheduled board meeting is Wednesday, February 22nd. So, General Manager Dessou, I will turn it over to you for the briefing this morning.
What is the board briefing?
Thank you, President Simmons. I would like to bring Alan Leto, our Senior Director, up for the final presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, President Simmons and members of the board. I come to you to present the draft business plan to you for FY24 through 28. The business plan, as you know, 5-year plan, a strategic plan that we update each year because conditions keep changing. This is actually the 7th year that TriMet has produced a draft business plan, so we're rolling now here.
Oh, by the way, they got their gang like 10 thugs conducting a fair mission right this second as we're speaking at 12th and East Burnside, all buses going east. And they're getting them all, man. Whoops, sorry. Good on you. You're going to get those poor people. What a bunch of successful transit cops you are. Get the poor. Get them.
My purpose here is just to give you a relatively brief update on the format and the contents of the plan. And this essentially announces also our comment period between now and...
Yes, comment on their thing. You waste your time. Tell them what you think, and they can ignore it. But we're going to pretend we're going to listen to you, even though we're not going to. Do anything that you ask us to do.
March 1st, taking comments both from TriMet employees, of course, and also from public, briefing TIAC and CAT, and just making sure that we are responsive to comments or questions or anything else that comes in. As per usual, I will be coming back to the March board meeting with a proposed final business plan for you to review. And, with that, I just want to touch on a few of the items within the plan, and it's projected up on the screen as well. So the organization, we've tried to continue to make this a little bit easier to read, even though it is very much in the details and tailored for our internal use to make sure that we have a good compendium of the actions that we're taking. But a few things in here that I wanted to point out. First, on Roman numeral page 4, which is electronic page 5, if you could advance to that. We started including a list of innovations that TriMet has had over the course of the years. And for
Yeah, your great innovations don't mean shit when you don't have service. This is what really bugs me, how they brag about all their stupid innovations while their service is in the trash. You know, it just bugs the shit out of me.
this year, we've added of course, the opening of our FX2 division, our first bus rapid transit project in the metropolitan area. And as well as the fact that I just learned in putting together the business plan, the signal system, which you know that we have transit signal priority on the FX2 division, is a new generation of signal systems that is tied into the overall network and is much more dynamic and robust because of that. And this is apparently the first time in North America that this kind of system has been put in with bus-only lanes and bus-only signals. So even though we're not certain,
It's a first. Yes, we're the first to have a goddamn system. The buses broke down, but they're back in service now.
certainly not the first agency to produce a BRT, we do have a first in this for us as well.
Yeah, who cares?
Moving forward several pages to electronic page 15, which is page number 7 on the print. The strategic priorities, which we discussed in the fall around ridership, safety, inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, employees and employee experience, community and partnerships, and financial stewardship and capacity. And you will see those reflected in each statement of.
We're going to talk about inclusion and diversity and equity, and we're going to leave you in the ditch at the same time. So how do you like that, Mapples?
Of our key strategic actions throughout the plan, we identify which of these or which mix of these is driving the effort, because we are trying to make sure that everything we do is leading towards one or more of these strategic priorities to help us focus. And then the very next page, one of the things that has happened this year is the creation of an Office of Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access, and the appointment of a Chief Equity Officer, which you have heard about, but reiterating here, which will include Civil Rights Program Manager, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Partner, Language Access Program Manager, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program Manager, as well as other employees looking for those to move forward inclusion, diversity, equity, and access within TriMet and for our community. A few other things to highlight on this page as well are measures and targets. We do have a number of measures that are on target, which is great. We have approximately 23% of measures that are off target. Pretty much without exception, those are off target still, mostly because of impacts from sort of reverberating impacts from COVID-19, from
the scamdemic, which they created to destroy us. Yes, sir. You're being scammed to death. So what is this? Well, I can hardly read it. The TriMet General Manager established the first ever Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. Yay! That's really going to help your service. The new office will be led by TriMet's newly appointed Chief Equity Officer, who will lead a team that includes TriMet's Civil Rights Program Manager, Diversity and Equity Inclusion Partner, Language Access Program Manager, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program Manager, as well as other employees. So they got like 25 new goddamn bureaucrats here for a bunch of crap that doesn't do anything to help you. But that's how we roll in this country now.
Financial impacts of COVID-19 and from the shifting patterns in travel demand that have come with things like the shift to more telework and the reduction of peak demand, which changes our ridership profile. So I don't want to minimize any of those. We're paying attention to all of them, but there are reasons behind many of them that are consistent with what we're seeing with social change and societal change. Then on the, the very next page, the key strategic actions are the heart of the action of the business plan. You'll see when we get just a little bit farther, there are a series of actions that are tailored to try to move us towards various goals. Out of last year's plan, we have accomplished 26 of those key strategic actions. And happy to be able to report that, and you will see the details on those after the green check marks in each of the sections under each goal as we move forward. I won't call out each one, just to let you know that those are there. And then advancing 2 pages to page 11, or electronic page, I think 19, is the representative measures. There are a lot of measures in the business plan. There are a lot of ways for us to look at our success and to be able to capture our understanding of how we're doing on 12 goals that kind of span the range of what TriMet is trying to accomplish.
And they're not a success at all, okay? We know the truth, okay? You don't talk about it, but we know the truth. We know how bad it is out there. And we know that you basically lie to us about everything, just like every other government agency. You got the inclusion and equity and this and that doesn't do anything to help anybody. But it does give you a goddamn lot of bureaucrats, doesn't it? What the hell is the director of the inclusion equity do anyway? Follow them around for a day, see what they actually do all day. What the hell do they do?
But these 7 here are some of the core ones around ridership, around safety, around inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, around employee experience, and around financial stewardship and capacity.
They leave you in the ditch, okay? This is all lies, 100% lies here.
And it's a bit of a mixed bag. Our ridership is up, as you have heard. We have not recovered to pre-COVID levels, but we are certainly up over previous years. Our on-time performance on bus is above target. Our on-time performance for MAX is somewhat below target. And you can see the other measures on here, but it again is a indicator of some of the things that we are struggling with, such as the operating cost per vehicle hour, and costs in general rising more for everybody.
Right, but you got unlimited money for the Division of Equity and Inclusion and the business program, and unlimited money for that. But boy, we're on a fiscal cliff. Approaching a fiscal cliff. But we're gonna have 25 new employees devoted to equity. But we're on a fiscal cliff
In our economy than we had, I think, all hoped. The next page, I would just point out, we completely revamped our our discussion of engagement and outreach. And this just kind of simplifies it, clarifies, and gets to the heart of how we are reaching out and listening and trying to understand what our community is needing from us. And there's I think, a really good discussion of the variety of different ways we do that.
Now look, here it is. Here it is. They have 53,000 followers on Facebook, 64,000 on Twitter, and 13,000 on Instagram. So, and they don't tweet. They don't ever tweet on any of those that their board meeting is going on. I wonder why that is. Do you have any ideas? Must be a mistake, right? Make sure that your main accounts don't get like notification that a board meeting is happening. Must be a mistake.
And then that really brings us to the heart of the structure of the plan, which is just a couple pages farther on electronic page 24, I think it is. The goals and objectives here color-coded by the group of the customer group, or sorry, the strategic success group. Again, I won't read all of these. These have not substantially changed. These are intended to be multiple year kind of objectives and goals, and they have stayed that. We have, of course, adjusted these as we've gone forward since year one, but no substantial changes from last year. And then the next area is the broad range of measures. I won't talk about those because I hit some of the highlights. And that brings us then to the heart of the action of the plan, which starts on page 28, which is electronic page, I think, 36, where goal 1, the key strategic actions, begins. And just to talk you through the organization here, the goal is stated up front with the related objectives. The results and progress so far for FY23. This is one of the challenges of having to prepare the plan ahead of the fiscal year. It means we're only halfway through. But we are able to identify some items that we have some key strategic actions from the current FY23 plan that we've accomplished, and you can see those under green checks, or that we are clearly on schedule to be able to accomplish and that there is confidence that we will get there. I haven't included anything that we have a real question about. Just to highlight then a few items on here. The safety and security reimagining process improvements are underway and hiring proceeding, as you heard from Andrew just a little while ago. And we have had good success in hiring of operators, which has been a key stumbling block to us being able to provide as much service as we've planned. We still have a long way to go because every time we hire an operator, there's a chance they may get hired up to a rail operator or a customer safety officer or some other position that we also need. And so this year we're focusing in not only on hiring but also on retention and just trying to make sure that we're having as many operators as available so that we can move forward with the Forward Together proposals. And then you heard already.
Yeah, they allowed their system to fall into pieces so they could do this. It was all done on purpose. I'm positive they allowed this to happen on purpose. And Sam is a sociopath, just like all the rest of them. They're getting big paychecks to lie to us. That's how the oligarchy functions. They give the big money to the best liars and the people without consciences, okay, to implement these agendas.
Already the safety response team, the customer safety supervisor team, hirings and improvements in the number of available staff to be able to provide presence on the system. And that presence on the system.
Well, I will say this: they do have the Nazis out now. They're really out there now. They've decided they're going to get all the pores now. They're also checking buses now. So all you kill 'em all bus drivers, you're going to be happy now because they're checking your buses. If I were a driver now, I would have not let anybody pay. If I didn't let people pay that I knew couldn't afford it when I was driving. I used to give out transfers for the next week to people. And if I was a driver now, I would not have charged anybody. But you hear all these the same old story as it always has been. The same old story, same drivers get all bent out of shape if you don't pay your fare. This is not exactly enlightened operation, and none of them are. They're all the same. All of these transit districts. They're similar to police in the sense that they're not accountable and they abuse the citizens at will. Excuse me.
Still part of the next section, which is the key strategic actions stated for FY24 and 28 on, I think, 2 pages ahead on page 30, which is, I think, electronic page 38, where we talk about hiring and training additional employees to provide more set presence on the system, along with a range of other key strategic actions here. And just to pause on this for a moment, each goal, each of the 12 goals has this section at the top that talks about the strategic priority focus for this specific goal. And then each key strategic action.
Can you look at the ridiculous bureaucracy that they have here? It's just absurd. It's insulting. Oh, and by the way, it does look like they have their operators. They're not canceling as many runs, and they're actually filling runs now. So they have hired more people than in the past, but they let all their riders suffer for the last 2 years. They just created a tremendous hardship for their riding public because of their sociopaths, and they let that driver shortage happen on purpose. And there's no doubt about it in my mind. And so did a lot of other agencies. It's the Build Back Better, it's the New World Order. You know, I would never ride public transportation anymore. And I imagine nobody would that has a choice, but there's a whole section of the public that's stuck with this, whether they like it or not.
Calls out which strategic priority it's focused in on. If it is focused on a specific objective, it will call that out or simply say that it's generally targeting the goal. Identify a lead division and then have the key strategic action with which years we're focusing on those. And again, I will not go into detail. It's all here spelled out. I will just say that for each one of these, not in this document, but in our internal tracking document, we have identified one or more staff who is responsible for moving these forward, one or more executives who is accountable for them, and part of my job is checking in with them periodically to make sure that we're making progress on each one of these. Moving forward then to goal 2, which is on page 32 or electronic page 40. This is around community stakeholders and employers and includes things like our efforts on sustainability and reducing emissions. As you know, we have switched to renewable electricity and renewable diesel, and more recently switched to renewable diesel for WES and lift vehicles. And now we're able to say that we continue to use these renewable sources and have reduced our operational greenhouse gas emissions by nearly 70%, which is tremendous. And a great interim step while the battery technology and hydrogen and other abilities to operate truly zero emission are still being developed in the industry. Then there are additional actions called for under this goal as well, and continuing with that. Then I would skip forward to goal 4 around deliver safe, efficient, and equitable service on page 36, which is 44 electronically. And here we have also a reiteration of the hiring and retention of operators, but also a recognition in the efforts here that we need to hire and retain service workers and mechanics, because not only do we need somebody to operate those vehicles, we need somebody to maintain them so that we're sure that the equipment is there and available. And we've had some of the same challenges with service workers, and to a lesser extent, but still for mechanics to be able to keep up with that. And then moving ahead to goal 5 on page 40, which is electronic page 48, the recognizing the FX2 division opening, and then in the key strategic actions calling on the successful, or on the project.
They're gonna do all the blue line stations over. Yeah, so I've pointed out over and over that the capital projects has never been cut. It's been added to. It's been constant. Okay, it's just one giant crime syndicate going on here. The goddamn government has turned into our mortal enemies and a giant crime syndicate where it's only is supporting the elites and the people in the government at our expense here. And we're sitting here and letting it all happen right before our eyes. You know, commute for intelligent transportation systems. That's just garbage.
Projects that are underway, such as a Better Red Line Max.
Better Red, nice pork barrel that does nothing.
Extension.
They call it a red line extension. Okay, there's already tracks all the way to Gresham. Okay, this is a very effective example of propaganda. Extend the red line. Well, they could run the red line to Hatfield right now if they wanted to, with no capital project. So this has been a psyop for the mafia, light rail mafia. Whatever they're doing, it was completely unnecessary. The tracks are already there. So it was a giant psyop and the public fell for it as they fall for everything that comes out of the government.
The bus priority projects that are happening in a number of places across the region, and state of good repair projects, which are critical for us to be able to maintain our assets in a state where we can serve our customers as they expect.
What a joke. They're still calling you customers, even though it's a complete lie. You're their captives, more like it.
I'm not going to go.
You know, that's another psyop. You're our customers. That's another psyop. See, it's just one psyop after another with these government people. You're not a customer. There's no choice. This is a monopoly. And they treat you like shit. Okay, they've been leaving the most helpless people behind in the ditch. And this idiot, well, I actually like Alan Lato, so I'm not going to call him an idiot. He's one of the few bureaucrats over there that I actually like. And he's pretty good at his job, I guess. But, you know, this is so disgraceful what's happened here over the last 2 years. But Sam's black, so we can't say things bad. I love how the oligarchy has put all these minority faces in positions of power as they strangle the populations of the world.
Through the rest of these, just to identify that there are additional key strategic actions under each goal around the personnel and innovation items that really get to employee and employee experience, and around financial stewardship and capacity, which includes things like the fact that our Hop Fast Pass, which we introduced a few years ago, really is now in operational stage. It's not really.
I got a good one here for you. That's this. Look at that lady go, man. Look at her go. Much more entertaining than this nonsense.
A project so much anymore as an operation. We're over 85% of fares coming in via HOP each month now. So we see this as a successful project that we're able to continue to build on. And then the financial goals, including meeting the strategic financial plan targets as well. The rest of this is just a brief statement of the route ahead, and then as with any technical document, a long list of acronyms and definitions to help people understand what's in the document. But with that is the draft business plan. Again, this is hopefully by the end of today, it'll be posted online. I'll be sharing it again with the Committee on Accessible Transportation and the Equity Advisory Committee. And looking for comments from any and all as we look towards a March 1st close date on that comment period, and we'll be able to develop a final from then. With that, I don't have anything else to share on that, and welcome any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I turn to all of my board members. Director Bauman first.
Yes, thank you, Alan. I've been on the business plan train, so to speak, since the beginning. And I have to say that every year I think it gets better organized and easier to read. So this was a pleasure to dig into. I have a question that you might not be prepared for, and that is, do we have any instances where the business plan has made a difference in TriMet's effectiveness? We know these are, you could...
There you go. She asked a good question. No, it doesn't make any difference. No, it makes no difference at all. We know that because I watch your operation.
Say, hey, these are actions we were going to take anyway. These were goals we were going to try to meet anyway. Are there any stories or any anecdotes where the fact that we have this business plan set out has made a difference?
I'm not sure I can bring a story to mind at this moment. I will tell you, we have to go through, obviously, not only a review internally with staff, but also do reviews with the executive team. And it brings issues up in the conversation with the executive team. And I think there's a true value to that where, one sort of, we may have some ideas, but it hasn't been brought to the whole group to kind of thrash through and bring issues up. And not that I can bring any specific into mind, but even this year, having those conversations has kind of brought some ideas up in things that we need to address. I will say specifically around, thinking about the early draft of this one, took a step back thinking about what we need to do about ridership, because that is a multi-year, essentially multi-decade sort of existential challenge for TriMet to make sure that we are constantly moving towards that. And that spurred a whole series of conversations and some work coming forward in looking at how we address ridership. We had a group internally that was addressing ridership needs that was more focused on communications and customer service and looking at those things. We'll be moving forward with a group that still includes that, but also includes operational and maintenance items, and just casting the net more broadly so that we're coordinating across that. I guess I'll also say that just the development of it from the very beginning 7 years ago created a lot of additional conversation at the executive team.
The executive team, useless people.
Executives and directors and managers in a way that I
directors and managers, yeah.
certainly hope has been helpful, and I've gotten feedback that it's been helpful.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none.
Yes, I had my hand up. Thank you.
I didn't see your hand up, Director Edwards. Please.
I had a couple of questions. Thank you for that report, Alan. But I guess on our lost time injuries, not right now, but do you have a more comprehensive report on what, if there's been any increase or decrease in our lost time injuries, and where most of those injuries occur, and how long our employees are off with those injuries? How much time are we actually losing? My second question is on the attrition rate. Is that decreasing?
Yeah,
given
sure.
that
Where's some real facts?
we've
Who wants real numbers? They never give you real numbers. They talk all this great talk, but they don't tell you anything.
Had our bounty out for a while, and we've been getting new operators, and of course we have retirees as well. And so I just wanted to get some more information on that also.
Yeah, Director Edwards, thank you for both questions. I don't have it off the top of my head, but we'll bring back.
We'll come back to you next month, and we'll never hear about it again. We never hear when they ask for information, we'll never hear it again at the board meeting. Never comes back with an answer.
Some more information on the lost time injuries and the trend. In terms of the attrition rate, my understanding is yes, there has been some reduction in the attrition rate. We continue also to project that month after month to understand how are we doing with hiring, how are we doing with attrition. Attrition means lots of things.
Not everybody gets to sit in an office and make fancy reports and go to these meetings. You have people that have to do the real work. And the real work at TriMet is harder than ever. Harder than ever. Worse job than ever right now.
Some good, like retirements for people who have served a long time. Some not so great, which means that we're losing them to somebody else entirely. And some great in that they're promoting to other positions. So we're tracking all of those different ones and seeing, I think, a little bit of an improvement in the attrition rate, and obviously hopes for better as we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't miss anyone else that might want to make a comment. Sorry about missing you, Director Edwards. Oh, Ozzy, are you raising your hand?
Thank you.
I need bigger hands.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Alan, first of all, thanks a lot for the report. I have to agree with Director Baumann. The business plan is looking easier, cleaner, now that we are in somewhat
it's looking big and nicer, but it doesn't mean shit. Nice bureaucracy, Alan.
Of a go mode, a maintenance mode, if you will. It's great to look back on some of the things that have been accomplished. Now, the one thing that I'm would like to see a gap filled in as we look forward has to do around the financial stability. We've had such conversations recently around the financial status. We've had discussions now about fare box recovery rates, and there's a lot of conversations now in the light of service planning on how this will be reconciled. And I just want to underscore that as we move forward, I'd like to see this business plan begin to incorporate some of the ideas that we're not only already leading with, but perhaps propose some suggestions on ways in which we can really prioritize the financial stability of the organization.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. Yes, and I did skip over, not because it's not important, but because I didn't want to read every single one of these to you, but there are key strategic actions, especially in Goal 12, getting directly to that, including some items that were presented to the board earlier around fair recovery and fair evasion. So I'd be happy to look into this more, and if you have any specific items you want to follow up with, that would be great, but we'll definitely check in with our finance staff as well.
Yeah. We'll never hear about it again.
Okay, so I am again checking to make sure there aren't any other questions.
All right, that's it.
Um,
I'm sure whatever it is going to pass. That's enough of this for me. And that concludes what's an hour-long video. Oh, jeez. Way too long for anybody to watch, but I wanted to hear what they had to say, so I did. Over and out until next month.